she hasn't been with a man in months. But she's not going to say it out loud. That's the secret most men miss. Here's the situation. You're with a woman, maybe at dinner, maybe at a casual hangout, and you feel something is different. Her eyes linger longer, her jokes carry an edge, her touch seems more intentional. But you're stuck. On one side, you don't want to look clueless, missing the obvious signs she's craving deeper connection. On the other side, you don't want to overstep and look like a predator. That's the razor's edge men walk on, and most fall off one way or the other. The truth is, women don't hide it as well as they think. Their body, their humor, even their silence tells a story, but only if you know how to read it. Without that awareness, you either miss opportunities entirely or destroy attraction by moving too fast. That's where Stoicism comes in. A Stoic man doesn't chase, doesn't guess, doesn't force. He observes calmly, recognizes patterns, and responds with control. And when you master that, you never fear the moment again you understand it. In this video, I'll walk you through the subtle but powerful signs a woman hasn't been with a man in a long time, how to spot them, and how to respond with strength and restraint so you lead without pressure. Let's get into it. Sign 1. The body doesn't lie. The first and most obvious sign is right in front of you, and yet most men miss it. A woman's body doesn't lie. She can control her words, she can craft a story, she can even say the opposite of what she's feeling, but her body always tells the truth. Think about this. When a woman hasn't been close to a man for a long time, her body unconsciously leans in more. She closes the gap when you talk. She touches her hair when she's near you. Her laughter comes quicker, and she might even find excuses to stand closer than necessary. These aren't rehearsed behaviors, they're instinctive. Let's bring this down to a real example. Tom, 48, from Chicago, met Angela, 45, at a friend's birthday dinner. Tom wasn't trying to read signals, but he noticed something unusual. Every time he spoke, Angela shifted her body toward him. When another man at the table tried to jump into the conversation, she subtly angled her shoulders back toward Tom, as if pulling the moment back to him. Later, when they were walking out, she stepped a little closer than needed, brushing her arm against his. Tom didn't panic or rush. He remembered that the body reveals what words often conceal. Now here's the Stoic truth. Observing is not the same as acting. Just because her body leans in doesn't mean it's an open invitation. It means she's broadcasting interest on a subconscious level. Your role is to notice, not to pounce. A Stoic man practices restraint. He reads, he verifies, he waits for patterns, not just moments. And that's critical. One lean in means nothing. One playful touch can be coincidence. But a repeated cluster leaning closer, brushing against you, holding eye contact longer than normal, that's when you know her body is speaking clearly. From a psychological standpoint, these behaviors often stem from pent-up desire. When intimacy has been absent, the body becomes louder in signaling interest. It's almost as if her subconscious is compensating for the drought. But again, this is where most men fail. They either ignore it completely, acting blind, or they interpret one gesture as a green light to accelerate. Both responses kill attraction. What should you do instead? Test softly. If she leans in, you lean back just half a step. Does she close the gap again? If she brushes against you, pause before responding. Does she initiate again? This subtle dance lets you confirm interest without ever overstepping. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This is where that wisdom applies. You can't control her signals. You can only control your response. Choose patience over impulse. Choose presence over pressure. That's how you maintain respect while still reading her correctly. Back to Tom and Angela. Instead of forcing anything, Tom let the night unfold. He maintained his frame, engaged her in conversation, and observed her patterns. By the end of the evening, it was Angela who suggested they meet again. That's the power of reading the body without rushing it. You give her the freedom to choose, and that freedom makes the connection real. So remember this, the body doesn't lie, but it also doesn't demand instant action. Your strength as a man is in noticing, holding your frame, and letting her reveal her interest through repeated signals. That's when attraction builds naturally, without force. Comment, I read signals. And stay tuned, because while the body is the first truth teller, the next sign often comes through humor. And if you don't know how to handle playful provocation, you'll miss one of the clearest windows into her desire. Sign 2. Playful provocation. The second sign is one most men underestimate, or worse, misinterpret. When a woman hasn't been close to a man in a long time, she often releases that tension through humor. But not just any humor, playful provocation. The jokes are lighter, sharper, sometimes a little suggestive. It's her way of testing the waters without committing fully. Imagine the scene. You're talking casually, and she teases you about how you hold your drink, or she laughs and says you probably have too many women chasing you. On the surface, it looks like banter, but beneath it, she's creating a safe playground to express attraction indirectly. She doesn't want to risk rejection with a blunt move, so she wraps her interest in laughter. Here's where most men get it wrong. Some ignore it completely, brushing it off like nothing. Others take it too far, turning every playful jab into a crude response. Both mistakes kill the vibe. The right response is balanced. You acknowledge the playfulness, you match it with calm wit, but you don't push it into vulgarity. That's what makes her feel safe to keep playing. From a psychological lens, provocation is a test. She's not just joking, she's measuring how you handle subtle tension. Do you get flustered? Do you become defensive? Or can you smile, hold your frame, and respond without losing composure? When you pass that test, her attraction grows, because you've shown her what most men can't. Self-control in the middle of temptation. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes practical. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Playful provocation is exactly that, a moment where her words challenge you. If you crumble or overreact, you fail the test. If you stand calm, unbothered, even amused, you pass. And that calmness is more attractive than any line you could deliver. Here's an example of how to handle it. If she says, "I bet you're trouble," the weak response is either denying it nervously or trying too hard to prove her right. The strong response is a confident smile and a simple, "Maybe you'll find out." Short, calm, and controlled. You acknowledge her provocation, but you don't overinvest in it. You keep the energy light and let her keep chasing the game. And notice something important, this isn't just about wit, it's about emotional stability. Women can sense when your humor comes from fear versus when it comes from grounded presence. Fearful humor is overcompensating, too loud, too desperate. Grounded humor is light, measured, and effortless. That difference is everything. Playful provocation is her invitation to engage, not her permission to escalate. If you treat it like a green light to push things too far, you lose her trust. But if you hold your frame, meet her energy with calm confidence, you give her space to keep expressing herself without fear of judgment, and that freedom makes her lean in even more. So remember, when the teasing starts, it's not random. It's often a signal that she's carrying unexpressed attraction. Don't ignore it. Don't abuse it. Respond with balance, and you'll pass a test most men fail. Comment, "I stay calm." And keep watching, because after humor comes something even more powerful. When jokes turn into small, repeated touches, her body starts speaking in whispers. And if you don't know how to read those whispers, you'll miss one of the clearest signs of all. Sign 3. Small touches, big messages. Touch is one of the clearest signals a woman can send, and yet It's also one of the most misunderstood. When a woman hasn't been with a man in a long time, her body often seeks connection in small, almost innocent ways. A brush of her hand on your arm, a playful nudge, the gentle resting of her palm on your shoulder when she laughs. These are not accidents. They are the body's way of whispering what the lips are not ready to say. Let's ground this in a real story. Michael, 52, a divorced father of 2 from Denver, met Sarah, 50, through a local hiking group. After a few weeks of casual outings, Michael noticed Sarah would often tap his arm lightly when making a joke. At first, he brushed it off as friendliness. But then he noticed it wasn't random. It happened every time they laughed together. One evening after a group hike, as they stood talking by their cars, Sarah touched his forearm and let her hand linger a second longer than normal. That wasn't just friendliness, it was her body speaking. Here's where most men go wrong. Some overreact, reading a single touch as a green light for escalation. Others dismiss it completely, missing the emotional vulnerability behind it. The truth lies in the middle. A single touch means little, but repeated touches, delivered consistently in moments of connection, signal a deeper message. She craves closeness. From a psychological perspective, touch is primal. It bypasses words and communicates directly with the nervous system. For a woman who hasn't had intimacy in a while, even a small touch can carry amplified meaning. It's not just contact, it's a release of tension. And when she repeats that touch, she's inviting you into her world of unspoken desire. But here's the key. Your role is not to rush. Your role is to observe and test softly. If she touches your arm, pause before touching her back. If she brushes against you, take a small step aside and see if she closes the gap again. This is the dance of presence. By holding your frame and not overreacting, you confirm her interest without pushing past boundaries. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The same principle applies here. If your thoughts are desperate, your touch will be desperate. If your thoughts are calm, patient, and grounded, your presence will reflect that. She will feel it in the way you respond or don't respond to her small touches. Back to Michael and Sarah. Michael didn't rush in or make assumptions. Instead, he simply noticed. He let Sarah's touches stack up like pieces of evidence. Over time, the pattern became undeniable. It wasn't one touch, it was many. It wasn't random, it was intentional. And because he stayed calm, Sarah felt safe to keep expressing herself. That safety, in turn, deepened her attraction. The lesson is simple but powerful. Small touches carry big messages, but only if you look at the pattern, not the moment. Don't leap at the first brush. Don't ignore the third or fourth. Read the cluster, hold your ground, and let her body do the talking. So next time you notice those subtle contacts, remember they're not always casual. They're often the body speaking louder than words. Respect it, observe it, and allow the moment to unfold naturally. Comment, "I read patterns." No. And keep watching, because after the touches, the conversation itself begins to change. When small talk shifts into deeper, more personal territory, it's another powerful sign you need to recognize, and one many men overlook. Sign 4. From small talk to soul talk. At first, every interaction begins with surface-level conversation. You talk about the weather, about work, about the traffic on the way over. But one of the strongest signs that a woman hasn't been with a man in a long time is when those surface-level exchanges begin to shift into something deeper. Suddenly, you're not just talking about what she does, you're talking about who she is. That's the transition from small talk to soul talk. Why does this matter? Because intimacy always begins in the mind before it shows up in the body. A woman who hasn't experienced closeness in a while is searching for connection. And when she feels safe with you, she'll let her guard down, not by making bold physical moves right away, but by opening her inner world. She might share stories about her past relationships, her struggles with loneliness, or her fears about the future. She might reveal how she feels unseen or how she misses real connection. These aren't random confessions, they're invitations. She's showing you that she's not just interested in banter, she's interested in being understood. But here's the catch. Many men ruin this moment by slipping into problem-solving mode. They hear her story and immediately try to fix it. They offer advice, they analyze, they turn into therapists. That's not what she's asking for. She doesn't want you to repair her past. She wants you to witness her present. The strength is in listening, not solving. From a psychological standpoint, this shift is huge. When a woman allows herself to talk openly about deeper emotions, it signals trust. And trust, especially for someone who has felt isolated, is the gateway to intimacy. If you rush this or dismiss it, you close the door she just opened. This is where Stoicism is so valuable. Epictetus once wrote, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's exactly what's required here. Listening is your power move. You don't need the perfect response, you need presence. You need to show her that her words matter by simply holding the space and letting her share. Here's what that looks like in practice. Instead of interrupting or offering solutions, you nod, you ask gentle follow-up questions, and you reflect her emotions back. If she says, "Sometimes I feel invisible," you don't jump in with advice. You simply acknowledge, "That must feel heavy." That one sentence tells her you're tuned in. It tells her she's safe to go deeper. And that's the real meaning of soul talk. It's not about solving her problems, it's about being the man who can handle her vulnerability without judgment or panic. When you hold that frame, she relaxes. She feels seen, and that feeling is addictive. The mistake weak men make is thinking vulnerability is a green light for escalation. It's not. It's a green light for connection. If you rush to physicality in that moment, you break the trust she just gave you. But if you sit with her, if you stay grounded and let the conversation breathe, you build something stronger than attraction. You build loyalty. So remember this, when small talk shifts to soul talk, it's a sign that she hasn't just been starved for physical closeness. She's been starved for understanding. And when you're the man who listens without judgment, you become the man she feels safest around. That safety opens the door to everything else. Comment, "I listen deeply," and keep watching, because as the conversations deepen, another signal often sneaks in, subtle but unmistakable. A flicker of jealousy when you mention another woman. And if you miss that, you miss one of the most revealing signs of all. Sign 5. Quiet jealousy. One of the most telling signs that a woman hasn't been close to a man in a long time isn't found in what she gives you. It's in how she reacts when you mention other women. It's quiet jealousy. Subtle, often hidden behind a smile or a joke, but powerful if you know how to spot it. Here's what it looks like. You casually mention a female coworker, or you tell a funny story involving a woman you know. Suddenly, her body language shifts. Maybe her smile stiffens just slightly. Maybe her questions turn sharp. "Oh, do you two hang out a lot?" Or maybe she goes quiet, and the energy changes. That's not just curiosity, it's her protective instinct kicking in. It's her way of signaling that she wants your attention to herself. Let's put this into a real-life example. David, 57, a recently retired Marine from North Carolina, started dating Emily, 54, after meeting through mutual friends. During one of their early dinners, David casually mentioned his female neighbor, who often dropped by to bring him homemade cookies. He thought nothing of it, but he noticed Emily's expression tighten just for a second before she laughed and asked, "Oh, does she do that often?" Later, when the neighbor's name came up again, Emily teased, "Sounds like she really likes you." David realized this wasn't about the neighbor at all. It was about Emily's quiet jealousy. She hadn't been with anyone in a long time, and her attraction to David was resurfacing emotions she hadn't felt in years. Her protective curiosity wasn't anger, it was desire. Here's where most men mess this up. Some panic and start over-explaining. No, she's just a friend, I swear. Others use it as an opportunity to brag. Well, women do seem to like me. Both responses destroy the subtle trust she's building. The first makes you look weak and defensive. The second makes you look arrogant and insensitive. The right response is calm, grounded acknowledgement. You don't need to deny or boast. Instead, you redirect the energy toward connection. In David's case, he smiled and simply said, "She's kind, but I'm more interested in this conversation." That one sentence shifted the focus back to Emily, reassuring her without overcompensating. From a psychological perspective, jealousy, especially quiet jealousy, isn't a red flag here. It's a signal of emotional investment. A woman who hasn't been with a man in a long time often feels her emotions more intensely once she starts connecting again. That flicker of jealousy is her way of saying, "You matter to me." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is where that wisdom applies. You can't control her jealous feelings. What you can control is your reaction. If you meet her jealousy with calm confidence, you transform it from tension into attraction. If you meet it with fear or ego, you break the moment. Think about it like this. Quiet jealousy is not a demand for proof. It's a request for reassurance. Not reassurance through explanations, but through presence. The way you hold your frame tells her everything she needs to know. Back to David and Emily. By not overreacting, David showed strength. Emily's trust deepened, and her loyalty grew because she felt safe knowing he wasn't shaken by her emotions. That calmness made her attraction stronger, not weaker. So the lesson is simple. When you sense quiet jealousy, don't treat it as a threat. Treat it as confirmation. It's not about the woman you mentioned, it's about the woman in front of you, signaling she wants more of your attention. Comment, "I stay grounded." 11. And keep watching, because after jealousy comes a different signal altogether. When she begins creating opportunities to be alone with you, it's not coincidence, it's intention. And if you miss that, you miss one of the strongest signs of all. Sign 6. Creating alone time. One of the strongest signals that a woman hasn't been close to a man in a long time is this. She begins to create moments where it's just the two of you. Not coincidence, not chance, but intentional design. When she carves out space away from the group, away from distractions, she's telling you she wants your undivided presence. You'll see it in subtle invitations. Maybe after a group gathering, she suggests you walk her to her car. Maybe during a busy event, she pulls you aside for a private conversation. Or she asks for your help with something she could easily do herself. Carrying groceries, fixing a small problem, rearranging furniture. It's not the task that matters. It's the opportunity for closeness. Psychologically, this move is profound. Human beings crave intimacy, and when it's been absent, the desire often shows up as a need for private connection. For a woman who hasn't shared closeness in a long time, creating alone time is her way of lowering the barrier, giving both of you a chance to breathe in each other's presence. But here's the key: alone time is an opportunity, not a contract. Too many men misread this and jump ahead, thinking privacy equals permission. That's how trust is broken. Privacy is her way of saying, "I want to see how you handle me without the safety net of others around." It's a test of your composure. This is where Stoic wisdom applies. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Alone time is that moment of proving, not through conquest, but through control. Can you stay calm, grounded, and respectful in the very moment most men would let desire take over? That's the true measure of strength. In practice, this means slowing everything down. If she asks you to walk her to the car, don't rush to make a move. Walk beside her, talk with her, and hold your frame. If she invites you over for coffee, don't treat it as an automatic invitation to escalate. Treat it as a chance to connect, to let her feel safe in your presence. Ironically, it's your patience that often makes her attraction grow faster. Think about it. When a woman goes out of her way to create private moments, she's already signaling interest. You don't need to prove anything in that instant. What she's watching for is whether you can handle the intimacy with strength. That's what makes her trust you, and trust is the foundation of everything else. And remember, this sign isn't always loud. Sometimes it's as simple as her suggesting a quieter corner to continue the conversation, or her choosing to linger when everyone else leaves. These little decisions add up to one big message. She wants space where the two of you can connect without distraction. So how do you handle it? You acknowledge the gift of her presence. You lean into the conversation, not the outcome. You let the alone time be about connection, not conquest. And when you do, you separate yourself from the majority of men who rush, pressure, and ruin the moment. The paradox is this: the more you respect her space within that privacy, the more she wants to give you access to it. Alone time handled poorly kills attraction. Alone time handled with restraint deepens it. Comment, "I respect space." And keep watching, because when she creates space for the two of you, the final sign often follows quickly. It's not about privacy anymore, it's about persistence. Playful teasing turns into constant flirting, and if you can't read that, you'll miss her loudest signal yet. Sign 7. Constant flirting. If there's one signal you can't afford to ignore, it's constant flirting. When a woman hasn't been close to a man in a long time, her attraction often comes out as playful energy she simply can't turn off. The jokes, the teasing, the double meanings, they don't happen once or twice. They happen over and over, and usually only with you. Here's how it looks. You're sitting across from her, and every comment she makes seems to have a playful edge. She finds reasons to exaggerate your quirks. She teases you about your habits. She challenges you with light-hearted dares. And unlike casual banter, this kind of flirting repeats itself, building momentum until the air between you feels charged. Let's anchor this in a real-life example. Mark, 55, an architect from Seattle, started seeing Julia, 52, after meeting at a wine-tasting event. At first, Julia made small jokes about Mark's tendency to swirl his glass too dramatically, but over time, the jokes became a pattern. Every time they met, she found something playful to tease him about his tie, his car, even the way he ordered food. The flirting wasn't random, it was consistent, and it was always directed at him. Mark realized this wasn't just humor, it was Julia's way of showing her attraction, while keeping it light-hearted and safe. Here's where many men make mistakes. Some brush it off completely, treating the flirting as harmless chatter. Others jump too far, misreading every playful jab as a green light to escalate physically. Both responses kill the energy. The truth is, flirting is a dance. It's about tension, rhythm, and presence. Psychologically, constant flirting serves two purposes. First, it lets her express interest without full vulnerability. If you respond well, she feels encouraged. If you don't, she can pretend it was just a joke. Second, it's her way of testing your composure. She wants to see if you can handle playful tension without collapsing into neediness or overcompensating with bravado. And this is where Stoic principles come into play. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Flirting is that test. You can't control her teasing, but you can control how you receive it. If you stay calm, confident, and playful in return, you pass. If you become defensive or try too hard to win, you fail. The power lies in holding your frame, smiling at the tension, and letting the game unfold naturally. Back to Mark and Julia. Mark didn't rush or overreact. When Julia teased him about his car being too clean, he smiled and said, "Or maybe yours is too messy." Short, light, and calm. Julia laughed harder, and the flirting kept escalating. By holding his frame, Mark allowed the attraction to grow at its own pace, without forcing it. That restraint made Julia feel safer and more drawn to him. So the lesson is this: constant flirting is not noise, it's a signal. It's her way of keeping the spark alive, of testing your balance, and of drawing you closer without saying it outright. Don't dismiss it. Don't overplay it. Respond with calm presence, and you'll find that her attraction deepens with every playful exchange. Comment: I hold frame. And stay tuned, because once the flirting becomes constant, another sign often follows, and it's quieter but even more powerful. Sometimes it's not in what she says or does, but in the way her eyes linger longer than they should. And if you miss that, you miss the desire written in silence. Sign 8. The gaze that lingers too long. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul, and when it comes to attraction, that couldn't be more true. One of the clearest signs a woman hasn't been close to a man in a long time is the way she looks at you. Not just a glance, not just polite eye contact, but a gaze that lingers a beat too long. This is different from casual attention. Casual eye contact flickers in and out, polite, quick, almost transactional. But when she's interested, when her desire has been dormant and is starting to stir again, her eyes lock in. She doesn't just look at you, she studies you. She holds the gaze long enough to send a message without saying a word. Here's the challenge. Most men either freeze or look away too quickly. They treat eye contact as uncomfortable, as if it's too intense. But the man who can hold that gaze calmly, without turning it into a staring contest, communicates something far more powerful: presence. It says, "I see you, and I'm not afraid of what I see." From a psychological standpoint, the lingering gaze is a form of silent communication. It's her body bypassing the barriers of words and revealing interest directly. It's vulnerable because prolonged eye contact activates a deeper emotional response in the brain, often tied to intimacy and trust. For a woman who hasn't felt that in a long time, the gaze becomes both a signal and a test. And here's where the Stoics can guide us. Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." The same principle applies here. Her gaze isn't inherently overwhelming, it's how you interpret it. If you see it as pressure, you'll look away and break the connection. If you see it as an invitation, you'll stay calm and meet it with composure. That shift in perception makes all the difference. So what should you do in that moment? Don't rush, don't smirk nervously or dart your eyes away. Instead, hold her gaze with quiet confidence. Let your expression be soft, not aggressive. Smile slightly if it feels natural. This isn't about intimidation, it's about acknowledgement. By staying steady, you show her that you can handle intimacy without panic or overreaction. The gaze that lingers too long is also a pattern, not a one-time glance. A single look could be coincidence. But if, throughout your interaction, she keeps returning to your eyes and holding them longer than necessary, that's her body signaling attraction in one of the most honest ways possible. And remember, it's not just about the length of the gaze, it's about the energy behind it. Sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes it's testing, and sometimes it's pure desire. Your job isn't to label it immediately, but to recognize it as part of a cluster of signs. When paired with other signals, touch, playful teasing, creating alone time, it becomes undeniable. So the next time you notice her eyes lingering, don't dismiss it as chance. Don't fumble and look away in discomfort. Hold steady, grounded, and present. Let the silence between you speak louder than words. That's when attraction deepens, because she feels your strength not in what you say, but in how you hold yourself. Comment: I hold steady, Len. And keep watching, because when the gaze becomes undeniable, another layer often reveals itself. It's not in what she says or how she looks at you, but in the restless energy she carries when she's around you. And that energy tells a story you can't afford to miss. Sign 9. Her energy feels restless. Sometimes the loudest signal isn't in her words, her touch, or even her gaze. It's in her overall energy. When a woman hasn't been close to a man in a long time, there's often a restlessness about her. It's not always obvious, but if you know how to read it, it speaks volumes. This restlessness shows up in little ways. She fidgets with her jewelry or plays with her glass while you talk. She laughs a little too quickly, or her voice shifts between nervous and playful. She moves around the space more than usual, crossing her legs, uncrossing them, adjusting her posture. It's like her body can't fully relax, because underneath the surface, there's desire she hasn't allowed herself to release. Take a real-life example. Robert, 49, a small business owner in Texas, met Lisa, 47, at a charity fundraiser. Over the course of the evening, Robert noticed something interesting. Every time they spoke, Lisa would play with the stem of her wine glass, spinning it slowly, then setting it down, only to pick it up again. When he made her laugh, she shifted in her chair, leaning forward, then leaning back, almost like she couldn't sit still. To an untrained eye, it looked like nervous energy, but to Robert, it became clear. It was restlessness driven by attraction. The mistake many men make is misinterpreting this. They assume restlessness means she's bored or uncomfortable. Sometimes that's true, but if the restlessness is paired with laughter, lingering eye contact, and repeated touches, it's usually the opposite. It's her body revealing tension, the kind that builds when attraction has been bottled up for too long. From a psychological perspective, this makes sense. Desire often manifests as energy the body doesn't know what to do with. If she hasn't had intimacy in months or even years, the smallest spark can set that energy flowing. She won't always come out and say it, but her body gives her away. Here's the key. Your role is not to feed her restlessness with pressure, but to ground it with calm presence. If you get overly excited or rush forward, you amplify the tension until it becomes uncomfortable. But if you stay steady, relaxed posture, calm tone, slow responses, you give her a container for that restless energy. That's what makes her feel safe and, paradoxically, more attracted. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Her energy is one of those outside events. You can't control her fidgeting or nervous laughter. What you can control is your response. If you see her restlessness and meet it with calm strength, you turn it into fuel for connection instead of friction. Back to Robert and Lisa. Instead of misreading Lisa's shifting posture as disinterest, Robert leaned back in his chair, slowed his speech, and held eye contact without forcing it. Gradually, Lisa's restless movements softened. She leaned closer, her laughter deeper, her eyes brighter. His calm presence had given her restless energy a place to settle, and from there, attraction only grew. So remember this: restlessness is not always discomfort. Often, it's attraction trying to break free. Don't dismiss it. Don't rush it. Read it in context, pair it with other signs, and meet it with calm presence. That's how you turn her restless energy into a bridge between you. Comment, "I stay calm." And stay tuned, because when restlessness settles into silence, it often carries the strongest signal of all. Sometimes it's not in her movements or her laughter, but in the quiet moments where the air between you feels charged with unspoken desire. Sign 10. The silence charged with desire. Sometimes the loudest moment between a man and a woman isn't filled with words, laughter, or movement. It's in silence. When a woman hasn't been close to a man for a long time, silence often carries the strongest message of all. It's not empty, it's charged, alive, vibrating with something neither of you are saying out loud. Think about it. You're sitting together after a conversation, and suddenly the words stop. She doesn't rush to fill the gap. She just sits there, looking at you, maybe with a soft smile, maybe with her lips slightly parted, maybe with her body leaning closer. That silence is not awkwardness, it's anticipation. It's the quiet space where attraction breathes. Here's why this happens. Words are often used to manage tension, to keep things light and safe. But when a woman feels attraction that she hasn't allowed herself to feel in a long time, she doesn't always want to cover it up. The silence becomes her way of holding the moment, stretching it out, letting the energy build. From a psychological standpoint, silence in these moments is not neutral, it's loaded. Our nervous systems are wired to feel intensity in pauses. That's why an actor on stage can hold an audience by saying nothing. It's why two people sitting in a quiet room can feel the air buzzing with unspoken emotion. For a woman whose intimacy has been dormant, silence is the place where her desire finally surfaces. The danger for most men is misinterpreting it. They panic, assuming silence means boredom. So they fill it with nervous chatter, killing the tension. Or they rush to make a move, breaking the moment before it's fully formed. Both mistakes rob the silence of its power. The Stoics understood the power of stillness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That retreat, the ability to sit comfortably in silence, is exactly what makes a man magnetic in these moments. If you can sit there, calm, steady, unbothered, while her eyes linger and the silence thickens, you communicate strength without saying a word. You show her that you're not desperate to force the moment, you're willing to let it come to you. And here's the paradox. The silence that feels unbearable to most men is often the silence that makes her lean in, because when you don't break it, she feels the weight of her own desire more intensely. She feels the pull of the moment, and in many cases, she's the one who bridges the gap. Imagine this. You're sitting across from her, the conversation fades, her laughter slows, and her gaze lingers. The silence stretches. Instead of fumbling for words, you hold it. You breathe slowly, your posture relaxed, your presence strong. In that stillness, she feels something she hasn't felt in years, not noise, not pressure, but possibility. That's the silence charged with desire. So the lesson is clear. Don't run from silence. Don't smother it with words or break it with nervous gestures. Embrace it. Let it expand. Let it speak for you. Because in those moments, silence is louder than anything you could say. When a woman hasn't been with a man for a long time, the silence she shares with you is rarely empty. It's a doorway. And if you have the strength to stand still on the threshold, she will be the one who steps through. So now you know the 10 powerful signs a woman hasn't been close to a man in a long time. From the way her body speaks without words, to the playful teasing, to the silence that carries more weight than any conversation, each sign reveals her unspoken desire. And more importantly, each one teaches you how to stay calm, grounded, and in control of yourself. A man who doesn't rush, doesn't chase, but knows how to read what's really happening. This is what separates the average guy from the man women can't forget. It's not about memorizing tricks. It's about presence, patience, and strength, the qualities that Stoicism has been teaching men for centuries. When you live by these principles, you don't just spot the signs. You inspire loyalty, respect, and attraction without forcing it. If you found this video valuable, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss tomorrow's lesson. Every day, I'll bring you more insights on Stoicism, psychology, and relationships to help you build the kind of life and love that's unshakable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.